So we're going to go down to this green section. And what you're going to notice here is I put a line here in this section right here. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just know that this is an arbitrary line. I just put it in just to make sure that everyone's going to be not go too far up in the section. So we're going to do the same process. We're going to go to mode, and then we're going to create a new area. I'm just going to hit new area. And I'm going to reorient this to, I believe it was 1.5 is more or less aligned with what this grid is. I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to bring it into this area. Now I can further refine this by grabbing these nodes and snapping them to the corners. And then I'm going to change my stick count from 3 to 5. And the spacing, I'm going to set it at 1125. Now, if you were to do this yourself, you would take a little bit more time to maximize it. You can see there's a little bit of space right here, but I want this to be as parallel as possible just for this webinar. So when you have your new area placed properly and you have the proper stick count, we're just going to hit that check mark right there. And again, we have, we're on pad 2 here. We have sticks 1 through 5. We're really only going to be using stick 1, but we are going to be utilizing stick 3 here as a guide for when we do that turn. So now that I have this U-Zontal well, I like the placement, I have a surface hole location, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, again, right-click it, create well, and I'm going to collapse down this basic well, click in the geosteering and make this my active well. I'm also going to turn on the target line, both within the geosteering window as well as the map view. So when I hit edit target, you're going to see that there is a blue and a green dot that appears here in the cross section. But if you look closely, you can also see that blue and that green dot here in the map view. Some things to note is in order to essentially use this extend trajectory needs to be clicked on. And we have some other functionality like dogleg severity. StarSteer, for some reason, sets the dogleg severity maximum at 60 degrees, which is not super realistic. So what we're going to do is we're just going to knock that back to a more realistic 12 degrees. And this is going to be 12 degrees that we're going to have in the landing. What's really fun about this kind of planning out the well is you can limit your dogleg severity to different things per section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my view so it's not super zoomed in. Let's do a vertical exaggeration of 20 just for visual sake. And I want you guys to notice that what I have here is I have TVD and THL signed on for my view scale. You can do TVD. I personally like sub-C. In this particular workflow, it doesn't matter if you're in TVD or sub-C. In the following workflow, it will matter. But the important bit right now is we're in THL. Okay, so I had mentioned we have this horizontal line here. So let's start planning our well, but let's make sure that we stop at a certain point, okay? So I'm just gonna take this green dot here and I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna shorten it up to about here. And I'm gonna go into this target line format here and I'm gonna hit append. And because we're now in the lateral section, I'm going to knock the dogleg severity from 12 to 3. And when you hit append, it essentially locks that segment in place, and then it makes a duplicate target line on top of it. So if I were to grab this target line here, you're going to see I can now drag it. And what you're also going to notice is I have this dashed line, and that's telling me, based on the dogleg severity, I could achieve this from the blue line or blue dot to the green dot. But if I were to pull that back, you're going to see that, and I pull it back even further, you're going to see that what I'm asking the program to do is unachievable based on that placement. It's important to note that the keep TL azimuth here will honor the azimuth of the previous section. So it doesn't matter what I do, move this up or down, forward or backwards, it's going to stay on that same plane. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to extend this green dot out a little bit to right about where that horizontal line is. And I'm going to hit append there as well. And now we're going to really start going into our U-Zontal section. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to bring up the dogleg severity to 8 degrees for this azimuthal turn. And then I'm going to move away from changing the target line within the cross section to now changing the target line in the map view. So I can just grab that target line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to orient it essentially perpendicular to where I had it before. And you don't want to come in at a weird angle, at least initially, until you're a little bit more, because if you were to have a weird angle here right at our buffer zone, it's going to have to compensate. So you want, at the very minimum, you want to be 90 degrees off of the well path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this stick up, and I'm going to line up that green dot essentially with that stick too, because remember, these wells are all parallel. So this is in fact the midpoint of this turn. So now that I've placed the target line in terms of where I want it to be on the XY, I do need to fix it in the Z direction. So I can just grab that up, move that up a little bit, and then I'm just going to readjust to make sure it's not all the way out there. It does get a little fiddly with these complex well paths because every time you move the target in the cross section or the map view, it's going to move them both. So I'm just going to bring that back and line that up roughly with the stick to TD. Maybe bring that down a little bit. And then I'm going to hit append. Because I'm continuing to do that turn, I'm going to keep it at 8 degrees dogleg severity. And then again, I'm just going to grab that target line here. I'm going to reorient it, and blue's always going to be the start, and green is always going to be the end point. So I'm going to zoom in and bring this in to match up with the well path, and I must have been a little bit over 90 degrees, or maybe not. It looks like it's kind of deviating from that. So I'm just going to grab that and make sure I can reorient this to be pretty much on the stick. And we're using these sticks that we generated as guides. And we'll use this process for a couple other well plans. Okay. So what you're going to see here in the cross section is U-Zontals have usually a very distinctive hump or trough, and that's because you're essentially turning around within the structure. So this is where the THL would come very, very useful, because if this was a vertical section, all of a sudden you would see the lines start to wrap up on top of each other. But because this is THL, it's essentially unrolled the entire well path. So again, I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to move that stick or that target line to match up with the structure. So again, I'm just going to hit append. And then this next one, I'm going to knock that back to 3 dog legs severity. And then I can just grab that target, bring it out. And luckily where this project is, this is the Bakken, so this is very easy structure. There's not many faults. I'm just going to hit append again. I'm going to bring that down as well. So what you're noticing is as I'm bringing this down, there's no limitation, right? So it's actually exceeding the landing point of stick 3 or where our TD is going to be. So one of the questions is like, we spent all this time, confirming buffer zone. How do we make sure that we're honoring that buffer zone? So the key is to get it as close as possible to the TD, where you want it to TD, within the cross section. And the reason you do that is if you were to place it, that green dot here, and then change the XYs or the TD location, it's going to maintain that sub-C or TBD depth. So it would jump over here. So you'd have to do the process over again. So what we're going to do is we're going to honor that buffer zone that we saw by going into the pad 2 where stick 3 is. We're going to go into spreadsheets. And then I'm going to click in this U-Zontal target and go to spreadsheets. And what I'm going to do is this landing point here, which remember is the TD, is I'm just going to copy the XY. So X in the green section and copy the Y and hit OK. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to create a well plan.